I'd like to introduce our speaker today quickly. Rick Boychuck is of Gridwell Incorporated. He is an inventor and a designer and a consultant specializing in permanent stage rigging. He's a theater practitioner since the late 1970s, and his career has evolved through positions as technical director, production manager, designer of sets, lighting and costume, university lecturer, and theater consultant, in which he specialized in stage safety. His most recent career iteration is as an inventor of safety devices for stage rigging systems. His devices are installed in numerous theaters, and including our own Zellerbach Hall at the University of California, Berkeley. Mr. Boychuck possesses a unique body of knowledge about the historical counterweight rigging systems, and he's written the book Nobody Looks Up, The History of the Counterweight Rigging System, 1500 to 1925. A significant part of the story includes the Scottish Rite theaters in the heartland of the United States. Nobody Looks Up is the first book to deal written in any language on the topic. So with that, I'd like to turn the session over to our speaker, Rick Boychuck. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Brent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We've got actually two presentations or two PowerPoint files here. One is the history of the counterweight arbor, and I can't imagine for some people a more boring topic, but hopefully we can make this a little bit more exciting. I encourage you, as Brent said, to ask questions, to pop in there. I'm putting together a history for the first time. I think I've got a lot of these things right, but if you see anything or you want to add or correct, by all means, I love it. Nobody Looks Up is the book that I wrote. A chapter in the book deals with the arbors. It doesn't deal as deeply with the arbors as what we're going to look at today. Before we get into the arbors themselves, I want to look at some of the players. And excuse me, now we've got, there we go. These are listed alphabetically. So John Barstow was stage machinist. Now that's what we called riggers. We didn't use the word rigging in the 19th century. Stage machinist in Chicago for the Chicago Auditorium. The Chicago Auditorium is the very first second counterweight rigging system ever, and the very first one in North America. Fritz Brandt from Germany of the Berlin Court Theater was a machinist as well. Brandt did a lot of development of the counterweight system. Friedrich Brettschneider, a stage machinist of the Vienna Court Theater in Austria, 1888, a year before Chicago. Documentation that I've been able to find says the Vienna Court Theater in 1888 was the very first counterweight rigging system. We're going to take a look at their arbors. Peter Clark, New York City, stage equipment manufacturer. Peter Clark Company he ran, and he did somewhere between 85 and 350 theaters. He's kind of fallen off the radar, and we're pulling him back on. He's very important. I offer the thought that he's the grandfather of the counterweight rigging system as it evolved in North America. I've got him not living from 05 to 34, but operating from 05 to 34. 05 is the year that Met received their counterweight system out of kind of consulted by, or the stage machinist was, from Germany. John Clancy, Stage Equipment Company, J.R. Clancy Limited today. Clancy was operating from 85 to 34 when he died, or 35 when he died. A gentleman called C.S. King. King had fallen off the radar completely. I found him referenced in only a couple of newspaper articles, but he was the stage machinist for the Sossman and Landis Scenic Studios in Chicago. His contributions, we think he's the one that contributed. I'll deal with it a little bit more. And if it was he or somebody else, their contributions were enormous. Karl Lautenschlager out of Germany from the Munich Court Theater, he's the one that came into the Met and oversaw the installation of their counterweight system in 1905. I've got him as active dates. Well, it was well before 1890, but he passed away in 1905. And Edwin O. Sachs is an architect specializing in theaters out of England. His active years, I think he passed in 1918, but I've earmarked 1896 as the year that he started writing modern opera houses and theaters. That book held the key, drawings in that book held the key to the first counterweight rigging system. This is the first, an example of the first arbor that I've been able to find. This is out of Diderot's encyclopedia. Diderot was not a stage technician. He documented everything from the Indians in Arizona to theater machinery. And now that arbor is, there's a couple of important points. It's a counterweight. In France, at the time, they did not call them arbors. I'm retroactively calling this an arbor. They called it a counterweight. Now that counterweight had removable, in French, pen loaves. We call them bricks. Now all we're looking at is the portion to the right. Interesting things about that, it's very low capacity. Those pans are about 6 inches in diameter, and that rod is 36 inches long. I did draw off some measurements. You can see a scale at the bottom. And that has a total capacity of about 250 pounds. Now, you'll note something you won't see there, which is missing, is a way to attach the rope to the bottom. So this is a pre-modern arbor. This was not used for a counterweight system as we have in the counterweight rigging system today. Rather, it was used to as the motive force for moving stage scenery horizontally. Again, I go into it at more length in the book, but they didn't have fly towers when Diderot did his work. They had very little vertical movement from above the stage. If there was vertical movement, often it was from beneath the stage. And what they would do is they would set everything, they would lift these weights, they'd attach them to the scenic pieces, and then they would let the weight of the counterweight move the machinery. Brilliant stuff that they've done a lot of work with over the last 5 or 10 years in Europe, reconstructing some of these systems and actually working them. This is, okay, so that's a pre-modern. This is now becoming a modern counterweight. All it is, it's a rod with 2 eyes fashioned. Notice there's an eye at the bottom, and then a little seat for the bricks to sit upon. The bricks in this instance are circular as well with an plain end slot, but it has indexing. Indexing, there's a groove on the top and there's a ridge at the bottom, or vice versa. We'll see a couple of indexing bricks momentarily as well. So this would have carried about 200 pounds as well. Very, very lightweight. We find this in the Clancy catalog in the late 19th century. This is a subsequent iteration. These are keyed arbors. So what we do is you notice the notching in the brick itself. There's a narrow part and then a wide part. So you insert the brick at the top of the arbor and then lower it, and it becomes locked onto the arbor. Wrong way. Here is a different iteration. It's a more sophisticated arbor. Again, it's keyed, it's slotted, but now they've included not only a way to tie at the bottom, but they've got 3 holes at the top to which they can attach the loft lines, and they're indexing at the sides, those kind of wings there. That's to accommodate 2 wire rope guides. So we've gotten actually to quite a sophisticated arbor here. This is late 1900s and late 1800s, and we'll see a couple of images soon of this being used well into the 20th century. This is not a theater arbor. This is actually from a theater, but it was for the passenger service lift or elevator. But it was interesting because they did use a counterweight. and we can see the counterweight. I took that drawing and I put it onto my CAD program in my computer, and I translated it into that. And if we take a look at the two of those, we're not going to spend much time doing that. You can see that what I've drawn is virtually identical to what was there. This is important because this bore a tremendous resemblance to this. Oops, wrong way. To this. This is an elevation of the stage at the Vienna Court Theater from 1888. This is Brett Schneider's theater. This is documented by Sachs. And right there, we would be able to see the arbor. The screen's too small. What I did again is I copied that, put it into my CAD program, and I traced it out. And we can see the arbor to the bottom right. Again, it's in that location. So I extracted it, and then I blow it up, and that's their arbor. Now, what's interesting here is that arbor has a capacity of 3,400 pounds. That's the first counterweight system installed anywhere, 3,400 pounds. The problem with this arbor, if you take a look at the brick, which I've shown it to the side there, it's an end-slotted brick, no keying and no fitting. It's a plain brick with a slot in it. It was dangerous. Sachs writes about Brandt, that Brandt wanted to keep his flymen, they didn't call them flymen, they're machinists, away from the arbors because bricks would fall off. That's all he says. He's off to a different topic, but it's a common theme. By 1891, these go into the English Opera House, otherwise sometimes we call it the D'Oyly Card Opera House. These are counterweights. So this is 3 years after Vienna. And so we can see we've got keyed bricks. And in the one instance, now why it isn't on both, but in the one instance, they are fitted as well. So they are holding each other together. But the one on the left that's elevation and section view of a single purchase arbor. Those bricks are 6 inches by 9 inches, and the 36 long arbor gives them 486 pounds capacity. Still pretty. So we've got 3,400 pounds happening in Vienna and not quite 500 pounds happening in London. So why that change? And Sachs attributes this. He said this design was based upon Brandt's system out of Germany. So we don't have an example of Brandt's system. It was in Berlin. It did not survive one of or both of the world wars. This is the Chicago Auditorium. These images are from the Library of Congress. The only images of theaters in the Library of Congress, about 15 of them from the Chicago Auditorium before the system was ripped out. There was some graffiti on the structural steel at grid level, and the latest date on the graffiti was 1973. So these shots would have been somewhere around 73. You can see, perhaps, there are no rope locks. They are literally tying off the operating lines with rope. Now, there was this image. To the right, you can see the operating lines, and you can kind of see some of the bricks on the arbors there. And there are a number of arbors just sitting on the grid, on the gallery. And I looked at those initially, and I said, oh, those are slotted arbors, much like we would expect to see today. But upon closer examination, zooming in, I said, no, those aren't slotted. Those are end slot, center pole arbors that are keyed. You can see the keying at the center of the arbor. Those arbors would have been 12 to 14 feet long, which meant that the brick had to be lifted to the top of the arbor and let down the center pole. So somebody's up there handing the brick on the arbor, captured by the pole, and somebody is lowering it down. Maybe 2 or 3 people involved with that process. This is a long arbor. And I got a glimpse at the arbors here. I had this image for quite some time before I looked to the very far right. I'm sorry, very far left. And you can see there is an arbor. we're seeing it from behind. And this arbor is a center pole arbor with side guides. Now, the Vienna Court Theater was rear guides. What happened here is that the Chicago Auditorium was started in about construction was started in about 87, 88, right in there. The architect and Barristow, the stage carpenter, made a trip to Vienna because they wanted to take a look at the lift system for the stage lifts, the Asphalia system that was in the Budapest Opera. And they went there, and they were there right when the Vienna Court Theater opened. So they saw the very first modern counterweight rigging system. Barristow brought that back, and he redid it in Chicago. But there were some telling differences. The arbors would be similar to what we'd expect to find in Vienna, but the structural steel was not. The structure, you can see in this image, the major girders running across the stage, and there are 3 of them at least. And he had to build a substructure. We're not going to deal with that today. But basically, they found the counterweight rigging system in the fall of '88, and they opened with their own in the fall of '89. So in 12 months, he translated what he saw in Europe to what was manifest in Chicago. And there's sort of a closer up view at sort of toward the top. You can see the top of the arbor, and then you can make out barely make out the center post, and then you can see the whole stack of bricks starting at about a third of the way up and going down beyond the image itself. So this is 1889. 1905, the Met wants its counterweight system. So they pull, instead of reaching over to Chicago, did they even know Chicago had a counterweight system? I don't know. I can't imagine not. 1889 to 1905, that's 16 years to have found it. Anyway, instead of reaching to Chicago, they reach across to Munich, and they pull Lautenschlager in as the stage machinist. And he puts, to the right there, we can see, you can see we've got what they called the mezzanines at the time, beneath the stage. Each of those levels is a mezzanine. And we can see the stage, and to the left on the image, we can see the flyman. He's got his arm raised. He's operating a line. Above his head, maybe about 16, 17 feet, we can see the arbor. It's just a little bit darker there. And there's a little bit closer view of that. We can see the galleries. The galleries were involved with many things, not just the fly floor. And we can see the man up in the top highest gallery, but that's not the grid yet. The grid is still above him. Beneath the stage, at first mezzanine, we have where the arbors bottom out. And what's important here, if you take, can you see my pointer on the image? No.
Yes, we can see your pointer.
Oh, you can. Okay. Very important here. See that little ridge, that little thing right there? That is a fitted ridge that goes from the front of the brick to the back. So what these would be is they would be side loading, probably unkeyed, fitted bricks. So from Vienna we go to front loading unkeyed plain bricks to side loading unkeyed ridged bricks. These will come back up again in another moment. This is from 1955. There was a tremendous strike at the Met. The union walked off. This is an image of management. It's either a plain photo op or it's them putting systems to bed. I better think it was a photo op. I've zoomed in here and looked at this, and I cannot say for certain that it's a center pole arbor, but I believe it is. And things that are clues here are the chains at the top. These are trim chains at the top of the arbor. They're not an open loop or a welded loop chain. They're an actual machine chain. And so they can trim their lines to about an inch on their trim chain. So this was sent to us by the Met. They were able to dig through their through their archives, and they found this image, an image of the same men playing with the hemp lines. Now, this is an image from the Chicago Lyric. I was there a couple of years ago. I took these images. I didn't expect to get in, so I didn't have a proper camera. This is done with my iPad, but what we're looking at is two channels back to back. Sandwiched between the two channels is the center pole that you can make out there. You can see the operating lines off to the side. Those bolts are all thread going through the channels, and they have clevises at the top. You can see the all thread right there, the clevises, and then the lines are terminated on the clevises. That's still in existence. That's still in operation, and they're kicking somewhere around 2,500 pounds a line set. This was installed in 1929. So we've got center pole arbors happening in Vienna, center pole arbors moving over to Chicago, center pole arbor moving, Chicago in the first instance with the auditorium, center pole arbors going to the Met in 05, and center pole arbors coming as late as 1929. To the Lyric. So we've got this tradition of center pole arbors. It's a European tradition. It's not so much a North American tradition. However, this I took last week. I was at the Masonic Temple in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The whole system is a rod arbor that we'll be looking at in a moment, which we're all familiar with. But this is one line set, and it's a center pole arbor. Just to let you know where we're at, there are the two bricks. That's all it is. It's actually an empty set. We've got the top and bottom to hold the weight, the top to secure the weight, and you can, if you look at it, you can see the rod continuing up. It's about 12 to 14 feet long. So, and they are fitted bricks. You can see this brick is upside down. You can see the this was right side up. So we've got those two little nubs, and then on the underside of the brick there are the depressions to accept them. And what they would do is they put one brick on from one side, the next brick on from the other side, and they would interlock, and then the top plate would hold them in place. And it is a very successful format. This is from Teatro Municipal in Santiago, Chile. This is not a counterweight set. The images I have of counterweight sets there are just horrible. This is off of a video, and that's why the images are horrible. But you can see we've got a center pole arbor. This is the counterweight for their multi-cables, for their lighting. This is installed 1937 by the Germans, and that system is still up and operating. I spoke with the technical director of the theater just this very day, asking him to send me better images. So I should have better images next time I do this. This next one, this is from Bosnia. A friend of mine in Europe posted this on Archiving Technical Theater on Facebook, and I pulled them down. I've asked him if he has any more, if he could send them. I haven't heard back yet. The interesting rope block in the foreground. I've got to try to build one of those. But you can see just in the middle ground there, you can see the bricks, and you can see the rod, a single rod, and the bricks are alternated, stacked one to the other. This is out of the J.R. Clancy catalog. I believe this is about 0506. We've got some of the sample arbors on the right, but they also had a box counterweight. And here's something interesting. On the right, we've got arbors. On the left, we've got a counterweight. So the terminology has, as a matter of fact, the arbor that we have to, I'm assuming that you guys call them arbors. In the UK, they call them counterweight carriages. And I've always known them as an arbor. But the word arbor wasn't adopted by Clancy until the mid-70s. If you go into their catalogs, they're always referred to as counterweights or counterweight carriages. This is a framed spindle arbor with wire guide. this one, I'm going to just take a look at, this is an image from a Scottish Rite. I forget which one it is. It could be Memphis, Winona, or Wichita. And you can see already there are 52 line sets. In point of fact, there's probably 100 line sets in this system. And you can see how close together they are. Now, this is out of Chicago. This is Sossman and Landis. This is 1909-ish. The load path goes from the eye at the top of the arbor, through the spindle, down to the bottom plate. The frame itself does not carry any load. The red lines you see are wire guides. So the frame is about a small number of things, creating a compact package that will allow this type of density. Those are 3 inches on center. And so what they do is they have a nice compact package that's about 3 inches wide. The arbors bounce against each other when they move, but they're never moved during performance. So that doesn't matter. They're as you'll see, they're beveled at the top and bottom, and they fit in that closely together. And you can see the wire guides there just in front of the fours, and then the operating lines, the manila operating lines.
Hi, Rick. You have a question from Skip. Skip, if you would like to ask your question, you are unmuted at the moment. Go ahead.
Thanks, Skip. Go ahead. Waiting for Skip. Nothing there? Is there something I should be doing?
Oh, no. It just seems he had raised his hand, but maybe we give him a couple more seconds and then we can move on.
Okay. Skip, if you figure out a way to cut in, please do. I'll just carry on though. Very important is the, excuse me, sorry. What Sossman and Landis, now this is C.S. King's, well, sorry, we don't know that this is C.S. King's work. C.S. King is in the record as having delivered the stage machinery to the Crump Theater in Columbus, Indiana in the fall of '89. The Chicago Auditorium opened in the fall of '89. King delivers a hemp system to the Crump. All of that is documented. At a point, King leaves Columbus because he's finished the work. We can only assume he goes back to Chicago because that's where the studio he works for is in. That's where the studio he works for is. And Sossman and Landis delivered soft goods to the auditorium. That's a matter of record. So we've got to believe that King saw that the counterweight system in the auditorium. However, that was '89. This is the earliest one of these that we found is '08. So that's 19 years later. So what happened in the intervening 19 years? Something happened. I've come to use the term mature. This is a mature system. This is not, oh, well, this might be a good idea. Let's try it. No, this has evolved over time. The same, exact same system is in Wichita, Winona, Memphis, and Portland, Maine. And they're delivered between '08 and 11, 1908 and 1911. And they are identical to each other. So this isn't, wow, we got it right first time, let's carry on. No, they've practiced. We don't know where the practice was. We don't know where his tests were. We don't know any of that. What we do know is that the money of the scenic studios was in the scenery. Now, if they used a hemp system and they had line sets on 1 foot centers, if on a 25-foot deep stage, they would sell 25 drops. On the other hand, if they could get them on 3-inch centers, which is what they did do, they would sell 4 times as many drops. So economics drives us to this high density. No, business, profits, and that's none of that is a bad thing. So what we end up with is a high-density counterweight system. This is as opposed to what was happening in Europe. Europe was staying with relatively low density. Europe actually was staying with understage machinery, with counterweight only augmenting the understage machinery. So now we have a divide happening between the two continents. This is interesting. This harkens back to the beginning, the end of the 19th century. This is out of the Clancy catalog. And what's interesting about this, I was at Clancy last week, and this is on the wall. This is a hand drawing from 1913, and we can see there's the large view of the counterweight arbor against the side wall. But they're not using a rod arbor. They're using this. So they have that becomes a question. Now, 1913, 1905. If you take a look at the upper left, 1905, 1906 catalog, they've already got a rod arbor. But that rod arbor, this is the first document to show a counterweight carriage, counterweight arbor with 2 rods. So Clancy invents this, but until 13 persists in using this. That would be an interesting thing to uncover. Now this is 1912. This drawing is on the Clancy wall about 3 feet from the other drawing. And if we take a look at this, we can see they're using a rod arbor against the front proscenium wall. So they're using rod arbors against the proscenium wall and the old style arbors against the side wall. They haven't migrated yet over to the side wall.
So Rick, just as a point of note here, we're at about 10:36, and letting you just kind of know where we're at in the terms of timing of our webinar, because I know you have a second message to continue with.
Okay. I'm going to blow through this more quickly now then. Okay. We got side loading double rod arbors with wire guides. And this is an example that I saw last week. You can see it's side loading with wire guides. Side loading with wire guides. This is in Nashville, Tennessee. You can see the wires to the ends. Wooden tops and bottoms. This is Hamilton, Ontario. Wooden tops and bottom wire guide. Eventually, we ended up with the rear guide double pole arbor. This is 1926 arbor. This is Peter Clark. Peter Clark, again, a different theater, rear guide, double rod arbor. This is 1955 installation north of Milwaukee, double wire guide. This is rear guide. We did forging. For many years, for maybe 20 or 30 years, we used forged tops to our arbors. Another view of the forged tops. I've seen these cracked, and eventually, as you know, we moved away from forging. This is out of the UK. This is Hall Stage. This is a side-loading frame arbor. That is 2 channels facing each other. That's it out of a catalog that I unfortunately had to shoot with my camera. But you can see to the left there's a rod arbor with channel, and the bricks look like this. The tabs slipped into the channel. This is one of those arbors. It's hard to see. Bottom center, there's one of the channels visible there. A better view, you can see the channel. This is a different Hall Stage. It's 2 T's instead of 2 channels. This is a different Hall Stage. It's a T and an I. So this is a T and an I. The major challenge with rod arbors, as you know, are the spreader plates to keep them from dropping their bricks. And we see things like this and this and this and this, all dealing with the spreader plates, misused, mishandled. California, you've got the Department of State architects that want now for a seismic rating on their counterweight systems. These are the spreader plates in Calabasas High School. I was out there, and we shot these. Those are half-inch plate. Each one of those plates weighs 7.5 pounds. So we've got 35 pounds. You all, I think, have to deal with spreader plates right now, which are relatively inconsequential in their weight. Imagine having to lift up 35 pounds and hold it out of the way while you load bricks. Another view of that. A box arbor, a front-loading mailbox arbor, and this is a photograph of them. You take the bricks, they don't have handles, you turn them on edge, you slide them through the front, and then you lay them flat. And that's fine until you get to the very top, and at the very top you have a letterbox. So the final bricks you just slide into the letterbox. In Europe and in South America, we saw a front-loading arbor, and they used a very heavy angle for their bricks, no shelves. Then this is out of South America. I forget which theater, and you can see the low density of the counterweights, one every 18 to 24 inches, or even beyond. We can see the handles. These are front-loading, but they're more of a letterbox style. You have to turn your bricks sideways, put them in, and then drop them flat. Side loading. I'm sorry, am I going the right way? Please. Now this is the brick house. This is what's in the Zellerbach. It's a front-loading arbor, a full, proper front-loading arbor with shelves and a gate that closes to contain the bricks. This is NBC Studio 1 in Burbank. This was the ill-fated Conan O'Brien Tonight Show. Lasted for 7 months. The union wanted counterweight. So this is a proto brick house by Thurn. It was an open cage design rather than the enclosed cage design, but every other element of the arbor already exists. The front-loading arbor today looks like this. The man opens the gate and he inserts the bricks in a standing position. And that's a high school in Michigan, and we can see the bricks with a nice handle. The latest addition to the arbor is an arbor view from the arbor trap from various angles, and this is the new work environment of the loader. You've got a front-loading arbor with shelves, you've got a trap at the top to prevent runaways, and the bricks are behind at roughly thigh level, so he doesn't have to bend down to the ground to pick it up. That's the last slide on that presentation. Any more questions? I'm going to move right over to the other presentation. Everything's quiet out there. Okay, same start page. Are there any questions? Here's nothing. We're going to compare the front-loading arbor to the side-loading arbor. We're going to put the head beams in there. We're going to put the head blocks in there. We're going to put the arbors on their guides. The man on the loading gallery. Now these two arbors are rated at the same working load. And
Hi, Rick,
so,
we have just one question. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Please, go ahead.
Somebody's asking what the cost is for front-loading arbors.
They're a little bit more expensive than a rod arbor, but on a line set, so I've been involved with bidding processes. On the line set, they work out to be about 3 to 5. The line set works to be about 3 to 5% more expensive. I offer the thought that 3 to 5% is not significant given the safety that we're going to be seeing in a moment. Is that a sufficient answer?
I think that's a great answer. I know that we have feedback that they've heard it was a quite bit more than that. So, but thank you for the for the answer to the question.
Okay, to expand on that, it depends. If I buy a small box of cereal, I'm going to pay more per gram or more per ounce or whatever the measure is than if I buy a large box of cereal. So the answer has really got to be, it depends. Are you buying a whole line set? Or are you buying 60 line sets? Are you buying just arbors? And we've had people that just buy the arbors. Carrying on, what's important with this image is I'm showing a compliant loading gallery on the brick house side. But we don't have a compliant loading gallery on the side loading rod arbor side. And that's because it impedes the work that's to be done. We'll look at that more closely. I don't know what theater this is. I pulled this down off of Wikipedia. I've seen so many that look like this, where we have chains. So we take the chains out of the way while we're working in those arbors, meaning that it's non-compliant while we're doing the work. It's a very reasonable thing to do when you've got rod arbors. This is Neil. He's just receiving a phone call, but we can see we've got compliant rails on the on-stage side and compliant rails on the brick house side, on the front-loading arbor side. We don't need spreader plate, or the front-loading arbor does not need spreader plates because it's got the shelves. And we need to deal with spreader plates on the side-loading arbor. And a repeat of an image of what happens to spreader plates. The shelves just make it easier to load, and repeat of this image of Jack loading the shelves. But the man loading the front-loading arbor is working most often in a standing position, whereas the man working on the rod arbor must start at the bottom every time he loads the arbor. The man on the left can load whichever shelf is convenient to him or her. The bricks on the rod arbor, you're familiar with that one on the right, and the brick with the handle on the left. Again, repeat of an image. The nice thing about the front-loading arbor is that we can, and we do, put bricks onto shelves so that they're up at the working height. With the rod arbor, we pretty well have to put the bricks on the floor, and the man is having to move a brick from the arbor to the stack or from the stack to the arbor. He's carrying 25, 30, 40 pounds, twisting his back while he's doing the work the way it's got to be done. The man on the left, he's basically just reaching down a little bit, sometimes more than others, but he's only bending his back slightly. He's working on the ball, turning on the balls of his feet rather than twisting his back. There's the bench on the left, and you can see how the man would be able to not be able to do the work without having to bend down. I'm not sure why I put this one here. The twisting of the back being the important issue there. Even when lowering, putting bricks onto the lower shelf, you can do it in stoop. Now, I do point out that that's only a 1,200-pound arbor, so it depends on so many factors. Sorry, this slide just repeats. This is interesting. This is a video. We're going to take a look at a video. Sorry, I'm getting lost in my... Okay. What you're going to see, what you can't see, is that there's an arbor 40 feet above this. The arbor is going to be dropped. The arbor is going to take out the bottom bump rail, and it's going to impact on the tension block. I want you to pay special attention to what happens when the arbor hits the tension block. And because we're in a hurry, I'm going to say it's going to flip out toward the operator. Here we go. Famous last words. Here we go. You can see how it jumped toward the front. Now this is a front-loading arbor. The front-loading arbor, a benefit is that the feature is that it kind of has a crumple zone, much like a car has a crumple zone. The crumple zone is intended to absorb the energy of that impact. When you see this one, you're going to see that the arbor falls, it strikes, the bump rail takes it out, it strikes the tension block, and stops dead. This is not doctored except for shortened in length. So the energy of the fall is absorbed by the folding of the sides and the back. We've also dropped them with the gate open. The bricks do not fall forward. They're induced to fall back through a little design feature. We also put the top bin is full. The next bin has one brick, and the bottom bin was half full. So we thought, what's the worst loading we could have here? And that's what we tried to do and did do. Is this a video too? This is a video as well. This is a man. What? Let's see what this is. Okay, this is the Northern Jubilee Auditorium in Edmonton, Alberta. They purchased the arbors, they purchased the bricks, and they purchased the benches. It was a retrofit of only those things. They threw out all of their old bricks, which is a huge dollar, but they said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. And what we're going to see is just a man doing the work. Okay, I'm just going to stop that there. That is really what told the story. This is Zellerbach. I'm going to just take us up to about 1 minute here, which is, and they deal with the arbors.
So Rick, before we launch that video, I'd like to ask a question. I know you and I had corresponded about, it is possible for theaters to use their existing bricks with the front-loading system, correct?
That's absolutely right. We knew that having to buy bricks could be a deal breaker. So part of the program going to engineering was make sure it will accommodate existing bricks.
I see. So it does do that, and then so it kind of has the rod or the door that effectively closes to kind of lock the bricks in place there. And if you have existing bricks that may not have that notch, you still have an ability to kind of secure them in the holder properly?
Virtually every brick sold in the United States before this came out is a rod arbor with 2 slots, one at each end.
So the existing slot will accept that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, just the Jubilee auditoriums, there are 2 of them, and they both upgraded to brick house, and they both got new bricks. The costs were basically 40, 40, 20. 40% of the cost for the arbors, 40% of the cost for the new bricks, and 20% of the cost for the installation. So the bricks are expensive. So being able to reuse them was essential. in our minds, and in the as it turns out, we were right. It's essential in most of the marketplace as well.
Except you don't want to be the guy loading if you can't get your hands on the arbor. If you can't get your hands on the counterweight, you have to pull them out with your fingers because it doesn't have a handle. You're not going to be happy about that.
Definitely having a handle now is a better thing. Center in the Square, just about an hour and a half up the road here, has gone with the front-loading arbors. They're on a 5-year program. They're in the 5th year this year, and they've used all their existing bricks. It does mean the guys have got to be able to reach into the back of the brick and engage their finger in the slot there, pull it out enough to get both hands onto it. And that is not as good as the brick house or the front-loading brick as designed for it, but it is miles better than what they were dealing with previously.
But it still does increase the chance of dropping a brick.
Yes, I can't deny that, but it's still going to decrease it from dealing with the rod arbor.
Understood.
And we're going to take a look for perhaps there are some that are okay. We're going to come back to that point in a moment. In the meantime, this is Zellerbach, and this is their front load. This is delivered by Thurn LVH with Thurn equipment, and this is the important bit here. All of their pipe weight is above. The geometry of their loading gallery to their arbors was such that they really can't get at the top of their arbors. Those are 10-foot arbors. So what they did is they just selected to put all their pipe weight up there. They never have to handle it, and they have quick and easy access. This is, of course, at operating level, but at loading level, they've got quick and easy access to a number of available shelves.
And Rick, just before you move on, there's a question whether there will be access to these videos for demonstrational purposes or web links to them. I think the question is, or the comment is that it would be good to have these videos when explaining safety factors for grant purposes or for system upgrade funding. So
I'd be pleased to work with anybody that's trying to do that. My website, I'm sorry that I didn't put this on, but you'd have to write it down anyway. The website is gridwellinc.com. That's ink with a C. Gridwellinc.com. Gridwell Inc. being all one word.
Yeah, following the webinar, we'll send out information regarding a link to the recording and also contact information for Rick. And if there's any follow-up links for the videos, Rick, you want to provide, I can send that out.
Right. I believe you all received a reminder email on this from us anyway, so you would have that information, I think. This is the new work environment. I pulled this together this morning. Excuse me. My fault here. I went one frame too far. This is the new work environment. There we have the loader. He's facing his 1,200-pound arbor. If it were 1,600 pounds, we would hope that the arbor would be a bit higher and it would extend below him. Somewhere he's going to have to put his pipe weight. Immediately behind him, he's got bricks at a nice comfortable working height. Above the arbor, we've got the arbor trap that will prevent runaways. And he's very seldom now has to stoop down. Most of the work done in arbors is in relatively low weights. If we had a 1,200-pound arbor payload, most of our work is going to be somewhere under 900 pounds. Well, 800 pounds fit on those two shelves immediately in front of him. So most of the work he's ever going to do is going to be right there on those two shelves. So what we've done is we've changed the ergonomics, we've changed the handling, we've changed the safety, we've improved the safety. And we've added a device there to mitigate against, if not totally prevent, runaways. Now, I'm going to say something about the trap. The trap will not help once you're in mid-travel. If you haven't secured your load and it comes loose, you know, there's nothing we can do about that. But a casual survey has demonstrated that that seldom happens. It has happened, but it seldom happens. 95%, and that's a number picked out of the air, but everybody with whom I spoke said the time runaways happen is when people are offloading either the batten or the arbor, or onloading either the batten or the arbor. And this trap will work in that instance. So that's the front-loading arbor. That's a very fast history blow-through of the arbors. It became a stable technology in 1925 when Clancy offered it in their catalog, and it stayed from 1925 till about 2010 when the brickhouse front-loading arbor was introduced. So our environment has changed, our work has changed, the amount of times we're changing loads has changed, and the health and safety expectations of this and all other industries have also changed. So we just thought it was time to change the arbor as well. Thank you. I'm finished, but I can receive questions. It's 2 o'clock on the dot. Or we can sign off.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can unmute your line. That's just pressing the little speaker button so it changes from red to kind of clear.
But yeah. So, Delabach, did you change the wall track? Does the wall track generally need to be changed? No.
Not at all. Again, everything we add to the cost of doing the installation is a barrier to purchase. So it fits right into a standard T-track.
And the trap that you're showing, that's the red box at the top of the arbor, that's operated by the loader, and it's basically a line lock, or it just grabs the arbor?
There are two vertical lines at the top of the arbor, green lines. They go into the trap, and the trap will be passively engaged. That's what we're calling it. So if the arbor goes down, it will lock in there. It will be actively engaged. But as long as everything is in balance, the arbor will be at the top. When it's time to move the arbor down, the loader will simply pull a cord attached to the trap itself, open the gate, and the arbor will descend without problem. If the line set is out of balance, arbor heavy, and the track is actively engaged, he can pull on the cord, it will not open.
So the loader operates it?
Correct. Now, it's possible to run that cord down to a lower level as well. We have some people wanting to do that.
And I'm curious, you're selling the bench too for this loading bench for the counterweight bricks?
Thurn will make the bench and sell the bench. There's not much money to be made in benches. They encourage people to examine. First off, if we're dealing with a new construction and they're just designing the loading gallery, we get them to design it right in.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a hard sell because architects just don't get it. But that's really the best solution because it's something organic to the loading gallery then.
Such that it would be captured in earthquakes, because one thing we want to watch out for is counterweights falling during earthquakes. So
right. What we've played with on design is that we would have we can see the bricks there, and there would be piles, towers of bricks, and that at the front, the bench would actually be extended towards the front, and there would be T that separates them, that contains them from horizontal movement. Now, that doesn't lock them vertically because sometimes there's vertical bad stuff going on too. We would just make sure that those angles are long enough to accommodate vertical vibration.
Well, we just redid ours, and we didn't use the front-loading arbor. We're kind of regretting it, but they hadn't come out when we did it. So
I'm sorry. The train just keeps moving, doesn't it?
yeah, so it is. We do love them over here at Berkeley. So but I was also told that they were really, the next step up, of course, is the automation and just get an automated line set entirely and eliminate the counterweight line sets altogether. And so this, I guess, is a middle ground between just retrofitting and keeping the same old junk, which is really a high risk. And then the next step is your system, and the next step up is automation.
Right, but the jump from a conventional rod arbor line set to ours is 2%, 3%, 7%. I mean, it's modest. The jump up to automated is 300%. Now there are other benefits that come with automated, to be sure, and that now becomes an operational discussion. What is it you actually want to accomplish in your theater? That is something. That's a discussion you should have, not with me present.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? We're at about almost 5 minutes after 11 here, West Coast time.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more point. The trap can be retrofit into rod arbor installations. Those two blades that come up from the arbor, as you see that, those become bolt-on items onto a rod arbor. So you can actually get runaway protection with your existing system.
Okay, well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining this morning. Again, I was really pleased and happy that I ultimately got connected with Rick here, and he was so gracious to provide his time and expertise. I certainly have, looked through his book over the holiday break and feel much more knowledgeable on the history of counterweight rigging systems. Actually, more information there than I ever expected to be found in one location. So. Thank you for that, Rick. And again, I'll send out a follow-up email letting everybody know how to access the recording and provide Rick's contact information. So thank you again for joining, and have a good day.
Thank you all.